Thanks. 7 o'clock. The meeting has been duly constituted. A quorum is present, and the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second? Any adds? I have one under 9.9. I'd like to add C, repurpose poster budget. If I see some nods.
I'm thinking that perhaps that should be... Is that not under an IRR?
It is in an IRR, but I don't want it in an IRR.
Can we not deal with it that way?
Yeah, okay, let's, fine. Okay, scratch that. End of request.
I thought that was the point of the IIR.
Yeah, and this one needs I need to have it sooner than... Anybody else? None?
Yeah,
Yes? Yeah, sorry, Peter.
Under 8A, add number 3, which will be Public Works Manager responses to Scott Ando questions.
Okay.
And then we have your additional...
oh, yeah, sorry, that was, I've got that here as well.
Under 8B5.
Recommendation for BCA stats. What data?
And then I believe under committees, reports, D, committees.
Yeah.
Councillor Bain is going to provide us with a verbal on infrastructure committee.
I see verbal, okay.
And under 12, if we can add B, just call it immunization clinic.
Sounds ominous.
That's it.
Okay. Any discussion? Further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? Okay, carried. So we'll move to public participation. Louis?
I didn't come in time to put my name down.
That's fine.
This is quick. It's got to do with the infrastructure master plan. And
Thanks for your note, by the way.
And the need, and in my mind, the need for the borrowing bylaw to be accepted by the community. I'm not sure if everybody gets the gravity of the situation, that there is work, desperate work that needs to be done in the next 5 years, and we need something like $9.2 billion to do it. It seemed to me that what might be helpful would be an update in the village update on Friday to say that the reason for borrowing is so much better, because another way to go would be to raise the mill rate on our taxes. And I figured out that you'd have to raise the mill rate by at least 5 mils to accommodate the money that you need within the 5-year period. And that's a big increase from, what is it now? The mill rates are about 2 or 1.86 or something?
Well, the mill rate's set depending on the budget. We'd have to increase the property tax budget at 20%, not 20 mil points, 20% increase in property tax raises only $200,000. So,
well, I think a mill rate raises 1 mil increases the tax by about 6.
depends what the assessment turns out.
Well, it's true, but we can guess that it's in the ballpark of $600,000, which is not very much.
Whatever the numbers.
But anyway, you're going to need, you're thinking of $3 million.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's where I get figured up a 5 mil increase.
Peter, can you give us a reminder on what the remainder of the communications plan says to address Louis' suggestion?
Sure. I can advise that we're just putting the final touches on some additional materials that will be coming to the website to add to the materials that we've already put up on the referendum page. And that will include a document that basically makes it a stark comparison between what are the consequences of a yes vote versus what are the consequences of a no vote. So there's that. As well, there's quite a lengthy posting of all the various questions that we've received, whether at the town hall, via email, via other means. So
Yes.
all those questions and answers are going to be posted very
That
shortly.
will be very helpful
Yeah.
indeed, I'm sure.
Including in the Friday update.
No, it'll be posted to the page, but you could certainly allude to them.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
I
if you can
don't
write
want to
something.
pull mark it, I want to push mark it. So we can push it on the Friday email. Because we've got, it's 3 Saturdays from, 3 more, it's on the 3rd Saturday from today, right?
It'll
Well,
be that close, that's
the-
right,
Ad-
very
vote.
close.
Advanced voting starts in 9 days.
Yeah, so we don't have a huge window. It's,
So it's so much better to go with the borrowing route. That's the positive aspect of the borrowing route, rather than saying it'll be terrible if it fails. So, we want.
Well, it certainly amortizes the cost over a longer period of time rather than trying to.
Today I had taken an elderly lady, and she says to me, it's an awful lot of money. Why are they doing it? Do we have to do it? And she also said, why don't they fix the intakes instead? So, I've been the best that I could, that it's better do what you're doing what the IMP says you're doing. But people don't seem to see. There's also a notion in some people's minds that neither a borrower nor a lender be.
yeah.
It's a very old idea, and it's not valid. But borrowing is so much better than in trying to increase the mill rate. So much better.
And it really.
That's the message that has to come through, and it's maybe not getting through to everybody.
Well, I agree. I mean, I actually, we will have a look at the material that goes out. I mean, the point that I keep making is that borrowing spreads the cost not only over the next 30 years for us, but for for people who arrive in the next 30 years. They pay their share of funding infrastructure they're using.
That's true. Also, of course, the thing is that if your property is is assessed at less than 1.3 million, I think it is. If it's less, then you get, the people of me, we get the bonus of a homeowner's grant once you get to higher levels. So the people at the lower end of this tax scale are the ones who are most concerned, and yet yet we, including me, benefit from the homeowner's grant. And so that.
That's also something to bear in mind, Peter.
Okay, well that's.
Thanks, Louis. By the way, would you object if we extracted material from your letter, or perhaps it might be even better just to publish it on the website or something? Maybe we need to think through how we would do that. But it was very sort of succinctly put, and obviously not a sort of a.
Well, it was still a draft. I was still thinking of how I should get an opening sentence rather than the long verbiage that I went through. It was a long story, as I tend to do. But you can use it whichever way. Yes, certainly. You have.
Louis, I think, well, you brought up the issue of mill rate. From my perspective, sitting where I do, I just discard that because there's too many things going on in the budget.
There's an awful lot.
And so if you're trying, using the number we're using, 12 grand equals 1 point, so let's just take 10 points, is $120,000, which doesn't give you much of anything. So
doesn't even start. I mean, even at 17 dollars, that's not a very big project.
So there's the bigger issue, is the 17 cent dollars where you can compound the thing. So I think if you get into the mill rate thing, which people are then thinking hundreds and thousands of a point, it loses the whole substance of it.
And I think you people are so much more familiar with what you're doing than the rest of us. You understand.
Well, we mustn't lose sight of that either. We must realize that these are sort of fairly fundamental issues that people need to understand. Why don't we just raise the taxes? Well, we'd have to triple taxes to raise that kind of money.
That's the underlying point.
Yeah, forget about mill rate.
Forget the mill rate.
3 million mill points.
Shouldn't laugh on the microphone, sorry.
Go ahead.
Right.
Your tax base is about 600 million, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah,
Yes, I think
yeah.
that's
An
right.
average property value of 1.3 and 550 tax parcels.
The other issue is, of course, that we can't be guaranteed that we're gonna be able to get at any time in the future 17 cent dollars.
Absolutely.
And so we've got an opportunity now to grab some, maybe, and we're gonna certainly give it a whack and see if we can grab some of that money, because it's certainly worth our while.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Louis. Appreciate it. Any other public participation? No, there being no delegations, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the last meeting of October 18th. I love everything about these minutes, including the timestamps. So I have no changes,
I had no changes.
no issues.
I particularly like the briskness of the meeting at 7:58 close for the in-camera, which will be a challenge for you, Mayor Blair.
Okay, thanks, challenge. Which one I shall rise to. So we need a motion and second to adopt, and any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. So, business arising. Remind us how this is done again, Peter?
From the minutes. Business arising from these minutes. That you
Okay, so
just
we have to flag
approved.
anything we want to talk about. Okay, so let's do that then. This is where the action items thing came in the past. We didn't have to troll through the minutes, but okay. So,
This one was pretty clean.
yeah, there was
This is the
there are
best
only sort of
example.
one or two. CAO de Jong to this is under 11R3. This is the correspondence. Peter to respond to Helen.
Okay.
It should have been done already, so still to be done. So that's still a carryover. Got it. And Mayor Bird to respond to Myron. That's also a carryover. I'm pleased to report that I have done all the work from 2 meetings ago, though. And that's it, right?
Less time sending out emails, responding to emails.
Full-time job, man.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. No further? So there's no motion here or second required. We'll move on to item 7, IRRs, page 9. Peter, lay it on us.
Okay, so these are all your requests, Mr. Mayor. Starting with Chambers monitor and whiteboard. So this is really addresses what you were seeking to add as an additional item.
Yeah.
This is the thing where you're talking about repurposing the
Yeah. Okay, I'll
other
kick it.
budget, but I spoke to CFO Rook. She's not here tonight, but she did want me to point out that that budget has already been, it's being used for various things like the new sandwich board out front, and the new official board out front with the lighted glass windows, and the refurbishing of our bulletin boards around town. So much of that.
That all came out of
much
the
if not
poster budget?
Yeah, exactly.
I
So
don't call those posters, but good enough. Okay, well,
we're
so
posting information. It's
Yeah, fair.
more or less, what we're talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that in terms of a 60-inch or whatever size TV or monitor for this room, I think that's something that perhaps council can consider within the confines of the 2017 budget.
Okay, well, that's how it actually happens. I'm less concerned. The driver here is, it came up in an infrastructure committee meeting, I remember, that in fact Nye was trying to show us something and everybody was crowding around a little laptop and we couldn't find it because it wasn't on the right network. My thinking is that we need a screen in here that's on the network behind a login, that is not a projector, that we can do on an ad hoc basis.
I use screens and projectors all the time for PowerPoint presentations and for video presentations in my business. There is no way in heck you've got room in here to put a 50-inch TV up on the wall anywhere that's going to be useful to us. Where? You got the flags there. Where are you going to move the flags to?
We'll move the flags.
Well, no, but the
Where?
thing is, you're going to move them.
Somewhere else.
No, but
Well, no, seriously.
Sean can-
it's just like
Not here.
It makes more sense to put a screen and pull it down and have a projector on there, and you can do anything on the projectors nowadays.
Where is
You
it?
really can.
Let me show you something. Oh. Can you go and get the projector, please, Shauna?
Can we put a
Well, you have to
time
go and
limit
get your
on this?
computer as well. So
It's the same thing. It doesn't make any difference.
you still need the computer.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
it's the
Hey,
computer.
so
that's
who
the
wants a
driver,
TV?
right?
Who wants a TV? Nobody? Fine, drop it.
Well, it's not necessarily something that's
It's like the map. We didn't
got
need that
no
either.
value. Just saying that it should probably needs to be a discussion
we are
around the
about to ask,
2017
we're
budget.
about to ask for $3 million from the voters. And
Well-
we're gonna buy a TV, put up on the wall in here.
$3,000.
For the original
Yeah, but
driver here
I'm
was
just
that
saying.
the original driver was we hadn't spent the poster budget, and now here we have. So I had thought I haven't seen one poster yet, so we must have $2,000 available to us. But apparently we've used that on non-poster items. But a screen is $1,000. But
If you want it, bring it up in the budget.
fine.
And the whiteboard, I was concerned as to where that would go to serve any purpose.
Don't know where the whiteboard would go.
because that would.
But I do know that when we're
difficult in
doing non-council meetings, when we're doing sort of meetings, there's very often a need to diagram something, mostly in the IC. Or
No, it's just
finance
there's
stuff.
times when everybody's into it, doing flip sheets and it's a mess and all that
Yeah.
crap, so.
It's more, the idea is to turn this into a working facility so that we can actually have proper meetings here.
So can we say defer to 2017
That's
budget
fine.
process?
Good,
Yeah,
so
it's
I'd consider that a strike.
Okay, so correspondence policy.
So I've been working on that.
Okay.
I'm not quite ready for prime time, but I hope to have that for the next meeting.
That's good enough for me,
Um,
thank you.
So yeah, more to come.
Tell us about the emergency notification system. I know you're working on it. I know you've been talking to vendors.
So with respect to that, we're going to do a trial. We had a demo from one company, and that seemed pretty good, and was probably going to be the most cost-effective solution.
What sort of money are we talking about?
For that would be $50 a month plus 2 cents per text. So if you sent a text to 1,200 people, that would be an extra $20, I think. Something
Plus
like that.
$50 a month to be on the platform.
Yeah, and
$600 a year.
and that's actually a deal compared to their product that's intended for community use, which is a much more robust product, which is $5,000 a year. So $600 a month or $600 a year versus $5,000 a year.
So my question on this one is very simple. Most people nowadays, and all through that last power outage, I had cell phone coverage, okay? I had communication with people on cell phones. I could call Ruth, I could call anybody who had a cell phone and get any information I wanted to. So the reality is that if we had a texting-based system that would work on the cell phones and stuff like that, and we have people that don't have cell phones, we knew who they were, then we could merely have a neighborhood watch captain or whatever the case go out and contact these people, and we would solve a problem without having to really have any costs involved. And I just don't know that there's much of a better system than something like that. And it's already here.
Didn't you say the block watch wouldn't do that? That's something.
Well, I don't
Sorry,
say
you-
block watch, but I mean, any of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm more than happy to have my cell phone put up, and I'm more than happy to go banging on a door if I know someone doesn't have a cell phone.
How would you reach all 550 houses?
Well,
in a day?
that's the issue.
That's
which-
the issue. The thing is, we have to know who doesn't
And the
have.
cops in Toronto
So-
just got the beat
Yeah.
on for that, for
Yeah.
sending out
Okay.
unsolicited.
It's just a conversation.
Well, no, but if you're saying don't have the system, then only one person would get the text, and who would it be official?
So
Well,
this system is quite adaptable. We can create preconceived messages that would apply to, say, a boil water advisory that is intended for one neighborhood. It would be a voluntary sign up to the system. So if you sign up and you're in Brunswick Beach, then we would have a group for Brunswick Beach. So if the boil water advisory was only for Brunswick Beach, we could send a text to everybody in Brunswick Beach, notifying them of the boil water advisory. Similarly, if there was something that affected the whole of Lions Bay, we'd send it to everybody. The system also allows for text to landline. Right? So remember that.
What about a voicemail to land, a voice recording to
Once you
landline?
get into voice, then it's not intended for this particular platform, and there are complications which arise when you try to send out voice or set up a talk group, because unintended things can happen. And we talked about that with the vendor. So we're going to do a trial coming up shortly, and see where we go from that. We'll come back with further information.
Yeah, good. I mean, this is it's certainly not a luxury. It's a necessary. I don't want to call it evil, but it's a necessary expense, I believe, as recent events demonstrated.
Yeah, I think it can be a useful and important component of our emergency planning.
Under strict guidelines as to what constitutes sufficient justification to send out a message, I think, and at that sort of level, $600 a year. I mean, that's nothing in our emergency services budget.
Plus the actual tests themselves.
I look forward to hearing the task force results.
Okay, good.
If I can add one thing too, the ESS group uses an outfit called CallFire, and it comes as an audible there, and anybody can send a message out if they've got the password to get into it, and it's a voice message, comes over a great bank of numbers, and I think the cost is even less, if I'm not mistaken. I've lost the details, but I can get them back if you like.
Yeah, I when we had our both outages out in December 2014, I set up a CallFire thing, but by the time, well, put it this way, it was quite difficult to get the phone numbers in an uploadable, importable format, so it never happened. And by the time we got round to discussing it again, the emergency was over. It may be that we have multiple tools in the tool chest. I don't know, but. Am I hearing that we think this is something we should be looking at? You don't need it until you need it.
Yeah, well, whatever you do, there's a lead time where you've got to input all the data of the numbers and everything.
And trying to do it while you've run out of water is difficult, as I found out.
Yeah.
So it's based on cell phone technology, or
Yeah, so basically.
so it uses everybody a list of cell phones that they just send information out to?
You'd have to opt in, yeah.
You have to opt in, so a message will be sent, you have to type in a phone number and then a password or key phrase,
Yeah.
and it'll add you to the list. And then we can take those lists, modify them into different groups, like Peter was saying, Brunswick, Kelvin Grove, etc.
There'd have to be all kinds of privacy guarantees around it, but I'm sure these guys advise you all of that stuff. Okay, well, it sounds like you're making progress anyway, so that's good. We'll leave it there for now, right? Next one, 107, tidying up the mailbox area.
So,
That's not the wording I said. The wording I had in my request was, I know nobody's in charge of the mailroom, but somebody needs to be.
So these are should be phrased as diplomatically correct questions, in my humble opinion. So that the wording, I'll take responsibility for the wording. And so we did have some discussion at our last staff meeting about whether or not about the mailroom in general, and most were perplexed in terms of the contention that it's messy or in disarray, because basically we have the notice board that's up at the end, up above the bank of boxes at the end of the wall, and there's some, the other notice board is for other people's use. That's our notice board, that's our responsibility, and we try to make sure that it's tidy and things are removed as necessary or changed over. In terms of the tidiness of the room in general, there are recycle bins and so forth for junk.
Yeah, I think we all know what it looks like.
Yeah, so.
It looks like hell.
Well, in terms of responsibility for it, we don't have any jurisdiction or responsibility other than for our notice board. And
That's the problem. So who takes the lead on fixing it?
Canada Post.
so it's Canada
No.
Post. Without spending a lot of time, I would think that Canada Post has a lease for the space.
Okay, so
So they would lease it from whomever, the Strata or
yeah.
whatever. So as between Canada Post and the Strata, that's where the responsibility would lie.
so they're not doing it. So now what?
You could send a letter to the Strata or to Canada Post if you wish to suggest that it's not clean or tidy or what? I'm
Well,
not
I don't know
sure
if
what,
you've
what
looked
you
at-
would say in a letter. What would you? What would you
There's
wanna
spider
say?
webs hanging from the ceiling. It hasn't been painted in 40 years. It looks like nobody cares. Oh, there's a reason for that.
Well, I guess you'd have to send that to the strata, the building owners, and Canada Post.
I would think, in an ideal world, the leaseholder would have to improve the leasehold, but that's Canada Post, and they've had a grate there that they used to presumably hand parcels out from back in the day. It looks. Tell me I'm wrong. It looks bad.
I get into a lot of mail rooms, and it really doesn't look any different than most other mail rooms in small communities anywhere. Unless you want to go to street boxes, which is, and that'd be Canada Post's probably preference, I would think, but I don't know.
That is the other sensitivity.
And of course, if we do that, then we lose the notice board.
Yeah, by the way, until quite recently, there were notices on the notice board from 2014, long superseded. Somehow I don't see them there anymore. Our official notice board.
Well, sometimes because of the height, we have height challenged people sometimes who have to change the notices. So maybe that explains why.
Couldn't reach them.
For 6 years?
Well,
Anyways.
Okay, so it looks like I'm on my own on this one. Okay, I'll take it from there.
Would that mean you're deleting it?
Yeah, the answer is no.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, that's good.
The property tax vendor.
So Pam's looking into that. So she'll have something back for you at the next meeting.
Okay, that's great. So just to fill counsel in, a guy I used to work with asked me for a reference to go and work for this company that prepares, from what I can make out, most property tax bills in British Columbia. They're a third party, turnkey.
Like the hard copy?
Yeah. They take the data, they take the mill rate, they produce the thing to a spec. Cheaper, easier, and better than municipalities do it themselves. It's all things being equal on the bargaining unit work. It's a way to relieve some stress, especially because they wish to offer it to us for free in consideration of the fact that I gave the guy the reference that got him the job.
Would we be able to customize it?
Yeah, I think that's knowing how these things work. You presumably go into some web interface, you design the form, you upload the data, and they quality check it and do the privacy stuff, and Bob's your uncle.
And do you know what other municipalities this has
No,
been
I've done
for?
no work on it at all. This is
Thing is, they
Purely
have-
Yeah,
on
I
the
wasn't
admin.
sure if you talked to
no.
her.
You're privy to all the correspondence I've ever had with them because I didn't want to get involved.
Right.
Be nice to know.
Wait for Pam.
Is this free for the first year and then you pay afterwards, or?
I didn't get into the detail. I don't know.
Let's get the information.
I first want to know what, who's got it, who's using it, what it looks like, how it works, and stuff like that before I
It's
even.
purely administrative decision, but it can save. I hear every tax season that it takes something like 2 person months to prepare the tax bill. It takes a month of Haley and Pam's time to prepare a tax bill. Well,
The concept is great, as long as it works.
Well, either they've got some clients or they don't. And
Well,
if
exactly.
If they don't, we are going to be number one.
they've got at least one employee I know of.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Hydrology charts.
yeah, so what is this climate change impacts and adaptation strategy fund, actually?
We haven't had time to look into
Okay,
it.
that's fine.
Unless
Okay.
you have one. Yeah.
No,
So we'll have to look into it.
that's great. Okay, thanks. And just for council's edification, the rest have either been resolved, as shown under the resolution sections.
But no. Completed resolutions would be resolved.
Yeah, the
But resolutions are things that have been resolved to be done.
yes, yeah, right. Doesn't mean they're necessarily done, but they are resolutions. And we will hear about those resolutions in the resolutions schedule. Completed are completed, obviously, and superseded are, is that what they're called? Yeah. Preempted means that they've gone away for whatever reason.
Superseded might be a better word sometimes, I think.
Okay.
In any event.
You own this thing, so it's up to you. Okay, good. So there's a slight amount of progress. So I think what I'll do on the post office one, is I will send a letter to. I'll have to think about it, because obviously we don't want to raise any qualms at Canada Post, because as you know,
Well,
they would like to do
Just-
community mailboxes.
Just,
With respect, you would not be able to send a letter as the mayor of Lions Bay.
no,
And you're not a resident of that strata. You're a resident of the community who visits the mailbox room. So that would be the only basis upon which you could send a letter. But perhaps it would be an idea to further consider what, if anything, you might want to say, and have a further discussion about it. Because, as you say, there may be sensitivities that maybe we don't want to ruffle somebody's feathers, or your Canada Post feathers, or unintended consequences.
That's
perhaps.
why I didn't want to do it. That's why
Yeah.
I asked for somebody else to do it. But I'm hearing it falls between
just-
some administrative crack.
Well, I'm just wondering if maybe it shouldn't be done, or if you want to come back and with some suggestions for what it might say,
Sleeping Dogs
what the
Live.
ask might be,
Yeah.
then maybe we can have another conversation about whether it's a good idea or not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm ashamed of it. It doesn't look like the Lions Bay I would be proud of. It looks like hell,
but
which I did have in my request until
as a member of council, my way of dealing with this is to ask council whether or not I think it's worth doing, period. Personally, no. I think it's a waste of time. The sleeping dogs lie. Leave it alone, because it's gonna blow up in our face, one way or the other.
That was my turn, let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're right.
I mean, it's just too complicated, the strata, the store. People want boxes on the street.
We're bringing-
And then we're gonna have our artistic input into the improvements? I don't think so.
We're
mean,
we're
I've
forcing
got better things for you to do.
local government on a private company, Canada Post.
Yeah, and the
And
strata unit.
We don't have any business doing that. Unless a lot of people complain, then we got some grounds to
How do we
complain.
get somebody to paint the thing for the first time in 40 years? Who paints it?
Okay, that's a small budget item, right? But even that, I mean, I guess you go, I'm gonna speculate you go to the strata who is the owner of the property.
They may say it's up to the leaseholder. It may happen overnight somehow, but that might be logistically difficult.
And all the rocks from the beach nicely around the garden.
You mean logs?
Um,
Okay.
The idea is that this council, right now, is extremely busy with all the stuff that's going on. The mayor is extremely busy with all the stuff that's going on. Councilors are busy with everything. And here we are thinking about,
Well, if you do, okay,
Redoing the
so
post
a
office.
cheap let's just give this no more than 30 more seconds. I get the part about a cheap refurbished project. I presume Canada Post isn't gonna care, because I don't think they do. I don't think the Strata Council would particularly care, as long as they're not paying for it. So, I suppose if we went to the president of the Strata Council, just to take a guess, Peter, tell me when I'm wrong or off the track, and say, if we were to paint this and clean the area at no cost to the Strata Council.
If volunteers were to do it, you mean?
Yes. And I don't know, I have to I need to be guided here.
In terms of bargaining unit work?
Yes.
It's not, because it's private property.
Well, they can, anyhow.
Anyway, the point is,
Point is, it's a talk.
far more Lions Bayers go to the post office than go to the beach washroom, which we were prepared to spend $15,000 on.
I think it's a chat with the president of the Strata
Fine,
Council.
okay.
If that's what you would like to do, I would be fine with that.
Okay.
Jim? No more than a chat.
No,
no,
of course not.
I think, I don't know where this started from, whether it's just from the mayor.
It's refurbishment.
It's refurbishment, but my point is that we've got bigger fish to fry than that right now, and I think that, I haven't heard any complaints about it myself, and I go there all the time, and it's a post office box. So, am I happy with it? Yeah, I'm happy with the fact that there's a bulletin board up there and I can see it, I meet my neighbors in there, so what? Paint, an extra paint bit of paint, maybe, but I don't see any point in us having a budget item on
There you
it.
go. Fred, you wanna weigh in on this one?
I'm kind of indifferent on the whole thing. The place doesn't bother me, and I don't want to waste too much time on it.
I would like to weigh in too.
Officially you may not, but actually you may.
It's an untidy premise.
Doesn't look good.
All right,
Okay, it looks like that will happen outside of official channels.
thank you.
Okay, where are we, Peter? Have you been keeping track?
A motion-
8A1.
Well, we
Thankfully,
need a
we moved
motion
on.
to, we don't have the standard recommended motion.
I didn't have, there wasn't one on the agenda, but I just said the following
So we're just
IRRs were
gonna-
approved by council and they've got them listed. Unless you wanna read
So
that.
the motion should be that staff update, oh, sorry, that's not the motion.
We're going to bring it next meeting.
No, just,
Some of it's just waiting input anyway.
that the IRRs be updated in accordance with the following, and then we list them, and we'll list what you just did.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll take that as a motion. Can I have a second? Thanks, Fred. And any discussion further? All in favour? Opposed? Carries? Okay, good. CAO report, Peter, page 21. Well, in fact, I don't need you to say this. So you've all seen the report and read it. It's the one that we would expect this time of year on how the 2017 municipal grant process and timelines will work. It's Pam's usual thorough treatment of the issue. Can I have a motion to receive the report? And a second, Peter?
The only discussion point that Pam wanted me to mention, and whether you want to discuss it or what your views are, I'm not sure. But last year, what we said to people was, you know, if it's for more than $1,000, then they needed to come in and do a presentation, which they did. But in hindsight, there wasn't much in the way of questions for people when they came and presented. So we weren't 100% sure whether
Did we need an
whether
in-person?
council saw a benefit in that, or do you want us to follow that same procedure? Do you have any suggestions for tweaking that procedure? What do you think?
Well, my thought on the whole process is that it's pretty clear what has to be done, like what the requirements are, what you need to put, what the information you need to supply. Does it have to come in front of council?
That's the question.
That's the whole question. And personally, if all the information, we've got a form and we've got a system in place, then it goes through the process, and does it need to come in front of council? I don't know.
I guess the reason for it to come, for people to come and present their request in front of council, is if council has questions. So
Yeah, because we have to say yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, no. So it's not, you know, we may need, maybe we can just say may be required to make a brief
That
presentation.
would make more
That's where I
sense.
would go,
That's
'cause I
exactly
think
what I was
really,
thinking, yeah.
Of all the ones last year, there's probably only two that,
And we did have questions. I don't recall not having questions. It was the Arts Council and the Play School. And they both came and we both grilled, maybe not so much the Arts Council, we certainly grilled the Play School.
yeah.
So if we could say May, I also see the deadline is the 16th of December, not the 31st.
yeah.
Which is fine, but that means that's
Year
only
ends
a...
can't be done.
Sorry, say it again?
Year ends can't be done. Like Arts Council's got a December year end.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They'll have to fudge their numbers or change the year end or report incomplete and besides which, you know, it still takes a while to close your books.
That's a good point. Makes more sense if it was.
Well, I'm on the, I
At the year end,
for
right?
Peter to take it back to Pam, I think that may be required to come to council on the top bullet point on the second page, and I think,
We need to think
I
through
mean,
the deadline.
the statement, fully completed applications and all the necessary documentation is, well, using the Arts Council, arguably the biggest group, or other than the events committee, they won't do it.
And that's only a month from now.
Yeah, so I think setting them up for failure is not good.
Yeah, we actually want to give this money away where it will do the most good. So
I don't remember what the deadline was last year.
it was the 31st, if I recall correctly, but I'm not going to put my head on the block. But what is the timeline requirement?
So
It's got to go in the budget.
it's anticipated that people would make their presentations at a council strategy meeting in January. And last year, if I remember correctly, we put it over a couple of times before making a decision.
And then its funds will be distributed after adoption of the 5-year financial plan bylaw. Well, that only happens in late May.
That's when they got their meeting.
So, I mean, why can't, I mean, the budget only gets first tabled run when? End of March.
Well, arguably, we're discussing it now, and if we just use last year's numbers.
Yeah,
I mean,
the gross number.
So for
Who
the
gets-
sake of argument, $3,000 there's your variation, so.
Yeah. We don't need to know who it is
No,
until March.
I actually can't see why it couldn't be done much sooner on a provisional basis at least.
So yeah, I thought you were saying it should be done later.
Earlier disbursement, not later.
Oh, I'm talking about the applications.
Because it's not in the 5-year budget. It's not in the 2017 budget until it's passed. Although now I believe it is in the 5-year plan. Or is it?
Not? Yeah.
Mm.
Do you remember offhand, Peter?
So
Oh, it's
I
26
don't know. If
grand.
Pam would have known.
Uh,
So we
Can-
can actually do it on the strength of the 5-year plan.
we could revisit this next meeting if you like and
Actually,
clarify things with
that's-
Pam a bit.
There's a window right there.
And it's
In
in
the
there now, so
5-year
we can
plan.
even do it in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is more, what's the all-fired hurry? If there is one, okay, then fine, then we need to chop. But otherwise, I mean, if we really only are allocating the gross number, which is 27,000, I think.
27,000.
Was last year.
It's in the first paragraph.
Oh, is it? That's where I got it from.
You're not that smart.
26, 9, 10.
Where?
Third line.
I didn't see that. Honest. I remembered from last year.
Where are you going with this?
Where we divvy it up, we only need to know that in March, April, as long as we know the gross number for the budget.
Okay, how about we defer this to next meeting?
Fine.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to receive, so we need an amended motion to defer. Is that right, Peter? Procedurally?
Um,
To the
Well,
extent-
you can still receive the report and
Okay.
then make another motion that
Okay,
it come back next.
okay, so
meeting.
second motion on the floor to receive.
The,
Further discussion?
well, I was just going back to the deadline of December 16th. Like, that's not at year end, so, again.
It's not
we have to-
doable.
gonna have to change, it's not doable.
Yeah.
So the point is that, this definitely has to go back. to be
Pam
looked
would
at.
be able to quickly go through and see how many were the December year ends. I mean,
Yeah.
the big one, I'm sure.
So
next
probably,
would be
as much as I hate to do it, I think probably does have to be deferred.
Yeah. So the funny thing
Yeah.
about motions to receive
Yeah.
is, in fact, you have received it. So
We have
so might as well,
we have
might as
received
well
it,
pass
yeah.
the motion to receive it and then make a motion to bring
Is
it
that
back.
is that the
next.
case? What if we really, really don't like it? We still have received it,
Technically, yeah.
and then we have a motion to kick it out the door.
I guess so. Yeah.
Which is not the case in this case. It just needs to be brought back. So
Well, we've received it by reviewing it.
we have to actually take a vote on that. All in favour of receipt and opposed? That carries. And now a motion to send it back for further rework. Right, Peter?
Yeah. Why don't you refer the report
Yeah.
back to staff for further consideration and to come back at the next meeting.
Okay, what he said. Second, thanks. Any further discussion?
Yeah, one of the other things I don't see on this is we were talking about encouraging all the groups to get a society or a charitable society status. Should that not be in the wording here
With a view to getting gaming grant funding? Yeah.
or something like that?
I'll have you know that I applied for the West Van Little League gaming grant funding, and we were given it on Wednesday, $36,000
Really?
last Wednesday. Yeah.
So we could be the VOLB soccer team and get more funding.
So y'all got new uniforms.
No, we're going to spend it on fields, clean fields, because West Van District is not spending any money on their baseball fields, as you know. So we're gonna have to pay for it.
Okay, so the
Okay.
charitable, sorry,
Yeah, so that's a good point,
the
Fred.
special status is
So
important.
run that by Pam as well, Peter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fran.
Okay, good. Okay, anything further on that? So motion to refer back to staff is seconded on the table. All in favour? Thanks. And opposed? That carries. Okay, Peter. Website verbal update.
So the company doing the website Up and Up is currently in build out phase and putting things together, and will be coming, or we'll be doing, I think we're doing a WebEx. Is it? It's not. It's the week after, so the 16th, I think. Is that right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think the 16th we're doing a WebEx on
Yeah, it's 16th,
on
Wednesday.
on how it works and stuff. So it's coming together, but then following that we'll have a lot of uploading to do. So we'll be entering into that phase at that point. So
Okay, thanks. How much credence was given to council's input?
all of council's input was taken into consideration and put forward in the input stage earlier on.
And implemented or rejected in favour of what they've done already?
I think that there were certain things that were taken into consideration and certain things that weren't, but we'll see what we get when we get it.
Okay, good. So I look forward to that. I don't know how many other members of council reacted, but given, as you know, this is my business, I sent in some fairly cogent comments to do with the user experience. There was a lot of scrolling, a lot of mouse wheeling, a lot of backing and forthing to get to any meat I found when I ran through it. Simply because you can do sexy things with websites doesn't mean you have to. You only need to look at somebody like Google, who has the most plain vanilla web pages with hyperlinks on them. There's a reason for that. They've done the research. So that's pretty much the sort of the summary of my comments. So I look forward to seeing what we get. The point being that there's so much more that can be done with the website. For example, Nye tells us at Infrastructure Committee that live water production stats can just be put on the website, a little widget, and all other sorts
Yeah,
of
but widgets cost money. To do that was
widgets cost money.
$1,400 just to have.
Who charges us
that
money for a widget?
People who make the widgets work on a daily basis.
They need maintenance like everything else.
No, they don't.
The software for the API on the graphing, there's a software license for the widget that produces the graphs.
Okay, so then Up and Up will do it as an RSS feed, presumably.
But it's not just the license. The license was potentially avoidable under our municipal charitable status.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, but the setup of the API was going to be $1,400.
Yeah.
Who would be charging us this money, just as a...
Website company developing it.
Yeah.
So,
Offline.
so this
Yeah.
this raises an issue that arose when we had the telephone outage and the internet outage and all the stuff that was going on, cable outage and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that comes to mind when we're talking about the website and stuff like that is, have we ever considered having the website directly fed from a satellite? Is that, I don't even know if that's doable. Like some people have satellite receivers and there are satellite networks that you can link into. I don't know what the cost is, but I'm just thinking the situation we had, that telephone outage and the cable outage and stuff like that, had we had the satellite uplink, we wouldn't have been out of email or any of that kind of stuff in the office. We would have been out of phones, but no email. We would have had email at least in communication. So
Doesn't everybody else have to have satellite?
Yeah, that'd only work if everybody was on satellite internet for the receiving part.
Well, no, but I'm talking about the village itself, the village office. The village office and the fire hall and stuff like that to receive or send information out to other communities or whatever the case is. That's all I'm thinking.
Question is, where is our servers?
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah, I
core,
suppose.
core
Okay,
issue.
it's a moot point maybe, I don't know. I just thought it was something we're talking about.
But the website
I
will be
won't-
hosted
Yeah.
off-site anyway.
Yeah, in the
so-
cloud.
So it'll be,
Just
it won't
work.
be affected if you were.
I was thinking of receiving, sending, that's right, just to receive, everybody'd have to be on it, that's right, yeah.
Well, to connect to the satellite system
Yeah.
with a send and receive system, the unit's usually around $100,000. Our son-in-law used to work for the company that did that sort of stuff, so it seemed like a neat idea, but I kind of dropped it quickly when I.
Yeah, no, if that's what it is, it's not worth it.
Well, I mean, there are, farms, for example, anywhere in the world that get satellite internet. It's not that expensive to receive. But for a production site,
Yeah.
uploading no, I mean,
Okay,
lease lines are $18,000 a month
yeah.
for 256 kilobits per second, which is not very fast these days. Okay, so thanks, Peter. More discussion required there. Looking forward to results. And number 3,
Motion to receive of the.
motion to receive Peter's verbal report, please, and a second. All in favour, opposed, carried. And Public Works Manager response.
Thank you, Mr. Ando, for his correspondence and questions. The salient point of his questions were that project number 50, which is the replacement of the Harvey Creek intake, is not within our 5-year plan. And a question with respect to exceedance of our NTUs and Vancouver Coastal Health's filtration avoidance. Essentially, the intake is not on our capital plan for several reasons. The primary reason is that the IC is working towards having our Build Canada funds repurposed to do some repair work at the intakes.
And I hear that you were up there today.
Correct. We were up there, we met with Chris, they're reviewing and they will be putting forward a proposal that we can take to Build Canada.
Fantastic.
Both creeks are surface water supplies, and before we start spending a whole lot of money on the intakes, it behooves us to determine whether they'll be viable or not, and that goes to the UBC study. And
Are we looking at your supplementary report now, or the one that's in the package?
the one that's the on table.
The on-table one. Okay, good. That's
Right.
yeah.
It does include the original report as well.
Yeah.
The other, I guess, point is that design of the intake, design of the settlement chamber, etc., will take time. We'll need to design something that will be able to withstand debris torrents. That design work won't be part of grant funding, so it will come out of the budget, and we'll need time to prepare for that as well.
You may, just to bring people who went there up to speed, tell us a little bit about the difference between the Harvey and the MAG intakes and what we are doing at the MAG intake. It's stealing some of Fred's thunder, I know, but
Correct. The magnesia intake, we are moving forward with the infiltration gallery as designed by CREAS with modification. Staff met with CREAS today to talk about the piping, and they've come to a mutual understanding and agreement on the numbers of airlines and the protection of those airlines. The whole benefit behind this infiltration gallery is that it should theoretically be able to withstand large debris torrents.
in MAG, simply
In MAG.
because of the configuration behind the weir.
Correct.
Cannot be done at Harvey, though, correct?
I don't know that it cannot. I think that we need to review MAG, we need to review the maintenance on MAG, maybe for 1 or 2 years, and then maybe install the same at Harvey as well.
Or something similar.
Something similar.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons for the non-inclusion of the intake into our 5-year plan.
So sorry, no, just to do that
Yeah.
even more fully. So this was a topic. CREAS came in to talk to the IC, and it was at least an hour-long discussion. And as a result of that, what I thought was very productive. I think he came in expecting to be grilled, but in fact it was a very cooperative session. Came up with this sort of mutually acceptable approach of putting in more than 2 air purge lines where you would actually be able to bubble air up through the the wet bed, gravel packed bed, and loosen any sediment that had gone down into the interstitials. So,
As well as a 3-inch layer instead of the complete 6-inch to add more granularity in the filtration. So, yeah, I think moving forward that this may be something that's beneficial and doable.
and the worst case is, if it doesn't work, take it out. The material's all being bought under New Build Canada funding.
We hope.
Well, there will be a little bit extra now, so there may
Yeah.
be some budget impact, extra piping, and of course, labor. This is now 2.5 years overdue, so labor rates may be different. But okay, well, it's going to be your problem to bring to council.
Thank you.
And get it
Your
fully
Worship.
installed.
The second part of Mr. Ando's question revolves around filtration avoidance and the recent high turbidity events. So essentially, with respect to that, we are in constant communication with Vancouver Coastal Health, who are the ultimate determining group when it comes to filtration avoidance. They have and they are well aware of our NTU events, and they're comfortable with our ability so far to shut down the treatment plants during high turbidity events and rely on our water storage facilities, including Highway Tank.
3.3 days retention time, yes.
So unless Vancouver Coastal Health, have a change of heart,
We're still fine.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as Nye points out, it may very well be in the foreseeable future that we don't rely on our surface creeks for supply anymore. The two options that are very much discussed, brought out on the IMP are pipelining one of three routings and desal. Whether the desal's peak shave or full supply, it remains to be seen. But so remind us of the headline price of filtration. 2.2 is the number that strikes me each.
I don't recall.
Yeah, but it's by no means insignificant. It's a big number that we can avoid spending now by careful management. That until recent additions to the SCADA we couldn't do confidently. It was manual changes. Now at least we can see the shutdown at high NTU occurs automatically, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it always been that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
part of the original upgrades to the UV by installing the UV.
Yeah. Sorry, that was some of your thunder, I know, Fred, but there's plenty left for you. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Peter, if you wanted me to go through the rest of the report.
I think you pretty much covered the.
I mean, those are the salient points. Then the rest is Scott Ando then took your responses and interspersed his questions to sort of make
These are from the previous.
the logic flow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up to you, Peter. Or you know.
I think it's up to the council.
Well, do we need to? I mean, I think have we all seen this?
I've read it.
You've read it. I think we all have. So we'll just
Yeah.
take it as read. Okay, thanks. Nye, anything further?
Thank you, very detailed.
So motion to receive. Yeah, well done as always. Thanks. And a second. Any further? All in favour? Opposed? It carries. So we'll move on to Mayor Report B1. So you may or may not recall that Peter was not satisfied with the response that we received from Moti on evaluation of wildfire risk in the highway reservation, which, as you can see on the map, is a fairly wide area in some points. The speaker moved to the map and pointed to some wide points on it. So this green, this dark green, is all Modi, and we didn't think we liked what we saw. Modi sent the forester out, Andy Goss from Pemberton, and he reported there's absolutely no risk whatsoever. We didn't think we liked that because we thought that he'd driven up and down the highway looking. Turns out that's exactly what he did. And so I took him in to the forest, parking here at the gate pit, and walking up here and stopping about here, and then going to the school and walking down this way. Bottom line, he said it's still okay. There's numerous jackpots, areas where fires could start quite easily in dry conditions, especially from lightning strikes or malfeasance. He said that we would need to address the deadfall that there is over time. It's not excessive risk to the extent that they would go put a program in place by hauling out logs or sending people in there. He said typically how this stuff happens is you go in and buck deadfall, you bring all the underbrush together, you let it dry out for a season, and then you fire it carefully in small loads at some point.
In the bush.
In the bush. That's what I said. In the bush. He said, yes, at the right time of year it's safe. You have to have the right program and suppression available and people on standby. So I said, that all sounds very interesting. He said, it all needs to be contained in your wildfire management plan, which is an item that is fundable by the Provincial Wildfire Management Program, which I then handed into Peter because he's got nothing else to do. And he wrote it all down, and he's going to do something about it. So, bottom line, it's not as bad as I, in my inexpert forestry understanding, feared. They actually sent two guys who started talking about some pretty esoteric stuff, mostly in Latin. And these guys clearly know what they're talking about. And they're not saying it's not going to catch a light. It's acceptable risk. And that's how these things are, according to their management standards. It's not an unusual amount of steepness, deadfall, brush. He said there are patches that need to be looked at, but they're not going to send somebody in and do it now. And of course, I was not only, I said, if we did any program, we would be doing it here on our land and here in the school land too. So the bottom line is nothing that needs to be done immediately, but we do need to address it in a future wildfire management plan. So Fred, that's one for you. And I can see you look skeptical, so why?
Well, I went to the Turpin Creek area when they had the forest fire right at the edge of the road there. And it was figured it was started by just a cigarette. And I think if you have these little piles of stuff that you're drying out, somebody fires off something like that inadvertently, and you get into our worst case scenario where we have a fire starting low down that'll work up the hill. That was the biggest fear. We don't really care about the lightning strikes above us because it's highly unlikely it'll come down, but one by the road or by the waterfront can, in the summertime, go up the hill.
Yeah.
I think it's a legitimate concern.
As did we all, which is why we called them in and said to Modi, guys, you've got this, you've never looked at this forest, I don't think you even know where it is, and the guy they sent in didn't have a map. I had carried the map to show them this. So, yeah, we're not out of the woods, to coin a phrase, but it's not as bad as I perhaps feared. Being the guy who walks on the path twice a day, thinking, "Holy heck, this doesn't look so good." But apparently, it's fine.
The point that Fred raises is valid in that our concern is the highway, the result of somebody driving along the highway, and the amount of traffic on this highway is higher than a lot of areas in the province would have because of where the road goes. And so we've got people traveling at high speeds, we've got residential homes above the highway all over the place, and we've got this area that's full of this deadfall and crap like that that could go up in a flash in dry weather. And so it kind of makes sense that it is a problem. From a pure forestry point of view, maybe it doesn't, in Pemberton or wherever else, people are driving, but the reality is that on this highway, this particular piece of highway, the amount of volume of traffic we get and the number of idiots we have on the road and what they do, I think the biggest thing, like Fred says, is somebody throwing something out of a car or causing something, getting a spark going, and bang, you've got a fire and you can't control it.
Well, I said all of that, and they said, get a wildfire management plan.
Well,
So that is our next order of business,
Yeah.
and that kind of, and you're absolutely right. This is unusual. They did point out that right next to the highway, in many cases, it is rocky cliff.
Yeah.
So, especially on the uphill side. So there's that, and they look at a path this wide as an effective fire break, essentially to give teams time to get in there. they are not denying the thing may catch a light, but they're looking for opportunities to fight it. So, you know, when they see the highway, they say, oh, highway, that's a great fire rate. You know, we're thinking no fire at all. They're thinking fightability. So, I don't know, not to give Peter conniptions, I don't necessarily suggest that we resolve today that staff should produce a wildfire management plan, because I think we need to hear from Peter what's involved. But I think we've been talking about it for some time, not only along the highway, but you know, there's huge portions within village limits that are completely forested. That's the red line that I'm pointing at now, and beyond the village limits. And they are, whatever side of any line they're on the map, if they burn down Lions Bay, that would be uncool. So we need to know what it is that we're going to do to manage fuel load, to address risk, to bring risk within acceptable limits.
Well, I can have another look at the wildland interface fire report that was done in 05, 06.
Yeah, that might be the great basis for the plan. And funding is available. And I got the understanding it was not insubstantial funding. You know, it's, you know, in the 10Ks region rather than 1K regions.
Yeah.
You just have to apply. But that's in Peter's court. Anything you want to add to that, Peter?
Not today.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thanks. So that was that one. Anything else? Anybody everybody good with that one? TransLink developments. I've alluded to this in some written material that you would have seen. As I think you know, the CEO of TransLink came to see us and alluded to the fact in various speeches we gained some fame and notoriety from other jealous municipalities. What's going to transpire out of that is that they will start looking and using Lions Bay as some test bed pilot opportunity for service model enhancements, starting with what they call divertible fixed route, which is the existing routes that we see that divert to drop people at their driveways, plus pick up people at their driveways based on some innovative GPS-based ordering, text, web, phone-based ordering system. When this will happen, I don't know, but as you might imagine, I'm pushing it quite hard. In fact, I just sent an email to them again today. So that's that. They are also willing to stretch the definition of TransLink capital funding to fund bus shelters for us. Simply, I think, as a PR exercise, because as I've said to them, you know, TransLink is, many people don't even know we have TransLink here. A little bit will go a long way towards getting people out of cars and into buses, and they agree.
Has anything been done with regards to the changes they've made to the scheduling system between that bus, where our bus stops, and how much time it takes to get into North Vancouver from here?
That's on the radar, but no changes yet.
Because that's key to getting people to use the bus system. People that work downtown, if they can't make the connection,
Can't connect, yeah.
they can't connect, they got a problem.
I've mentioned it all up and down the chain. I didn't actually mention it to the CEO. I think there may have been a level of detail that he didn't need to know. But I have mentioned it to VP of Policy and Planning, so you know, his next report down. So that's something we're working on. You know, these guys have this massive supercomputer sitting in some secret basement somewhere, scheduling a lot of buses and trains.
My selfish point is that I keep a boat in Richmond, and I love to go to North Van and take the bus and go SkyTrain, and I can be at my boat in 15 minutes. But you think I can get from Lions Bay to North Vancouver easily without my car? No, I can't.
No,
it takes me 2 hours, hour and a half.
We've got a long way to go there, but you know, the issue with transit and Lions Bay is, even though we may not see too many coloured lines on the new service delivery map, we rely on service improvements elsewhere in the region because we use them, as do you. I use Seabus quite often, and then catch the train down to the airport and catch the train into town.
It's a wonderful service.
That's fantastic. It's yeah. So Lions Bay must be seen to be supporting the TransLink improvements because we use them. There's that, and then there's also there's a term that they use. I think it's avoidance. It's getting other people in onto transit so they clear the roads for people who don't have options to drive on the roads. And you don't need to be told driving down the cut at 8 or 9 in the morning is impossible. Your journey time's 90 minutes. And I've seen that just in the last 2 years driving to Metro in Burnaby. I used to leave an hour before, now I leave 90 minutes before because That's how long it takes.
There's certain times you don't drive on the highway, period.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can't get off the North Shore after 3 o'clock. So, bottom line, this new guy is pretty proactive. He's pretty impressive. Peter was in the meeting. Hey, Peter. Yeah. So things are happening with TransLink. I think that's enough to say there. Update with MLA versus UBCM requests. Follow up with. I don't know why that's on there. That's some other to-do list. Follow up with Emily. I did put it. Yeah, I must have cut and pasted from somewhere else. I think we'll scratch that one. Sorry about that. And then just to update you, we took Pam Goldsmith-Jones on a Saturday up to an intake. Looked at the Harvey tank. We looked at the Phase 5 tank. We looked at it and the associated piping in it. I used to go up there with the dog all the time. There's this little shack next to the Phase 5 tank that I thought was derelict. No, there's a whole bunch of stuff down in there, 6 feet underground. Valves and springs and meters and gauges and valves. Did I say valves? All rat infested. Now I get it. This stuff all needs fixing. So the point was we wanted to show Pam so that she could understand just how dire it was. That we weren't just blowing smoke and looking for money to spend. We've got to have that money. And I think she came away quite impressed. My political instinct was right. She needed to see the intake. Not that we're going to do anything with the intake on this round, but to get an understanding of the scope of the challenge, just the magnitude of our challenges. We really are performing miracles with what we have. So that went quite well. Deadline for the thing, as everybody knows, 23rd of November. We've got a referendum to get through before then. Peter assures me that it's going to be successful. You guaranteed it.
I did?
So I've got it in writing. So let's hope that the village gets it. Louis, do your part, please. So enough to be said about that. Seeing nothing under council, we'll move to committees. And Fred, I believe that's... Oh, wait, sorry, there's a 5. The recommendation for BSA data. BC... this one. I've lost it. There it is. Okay, so this was just to give comfort to staff for giving me this stuff. I had asked for this data and I was told I could come and look at it at the front counter in hard copy, but that doesn't actually give me a spreadsheet I can use to do the kind of stuff I wanted. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, in that I only sent it out this morning. Please to answer questions. Peter.
So I've discussed this with Pam and, not this exactly thing with Pam because she's already gone, but I talked to Haley today about exactly what Haley has been able to provide. So the wording here doesn't quite work because the information that's supplied from BC Assessment is not in a spreadsheet format. It's a database, and so it's not like we can just download a spreadsheet and provide that to you. But what we've been working on, and part of the reason it's taken this long, is because it's taken work by staff to take the information from the database and input it or upload it to our Maze financial software. And so that process is pretty much done now. And so what we've got is so what we can provide is a spreadsheet containing all individual property assessment data supplied by BCAA, except owner names, addresses, and other such personal information, for the years 2012 to 2016 inclusive. What else have I got here?
Well, that's fine.
So that's close,
everything here except
close
2011.
to what you're asking. Just rewording it a little bit in terms of just to make it clear that it's not,
That's fine.
We're not providing what BCAA has supplied in terms of a spreadsheet. We created the spreadsheet.
Yeah, got you. Or, to be honest, though, I could take the database too.
Well, we can't hand you the database. You can go pick up whatever you can pick up online from their customer.
Yeah, that's 550 times. That's going to take a while. Cut and paste.
So So I'm just telling you what we have.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
That- that's-
with what we have, you can calculate the median and.
Yeah,
and
it's got the
how
values
many
too, obviously.
things. Yeah, it's got the values, but there's street names, but there's the addresses are removed from the street names
Yeah,
along
don't
with
need
the
that.
personal information. You
Yeah,
just need,
as long as it's got the PID
It's
so
got-
it can associate
it's
it
got
with
the
the map.
parcels, so I don't know
That's
if it's
fine.
got the PIDs or not, but.
Well, let's just
The other
have
thing
something.
is, and so, yeah, I mean, you can, I've got a name, you can talk to a BCA.
Okay.
But with respect to some of the background information, I do want to make a few comments with respect to items 1, 2, and 3
Mhm.
of the report. So, with respect to number 2, you refer to certain rumors that may or may not come true. And so my caution would be that we take care not to propagate rumors. Things can change between now and when property tax assessments come out next year. And many people expect things to change, notwithstanding that there may have been some discussion of these things at UBCM and maybe resolutions were put forward and not passed, but the province oftentimes, they don't do much with UBCM resolutions a lot of the time. So whether or
As
not,
they know
whether
what
or
they
not a
can ignore.
resolution with respect to assessments was passed or not passed,
Yeah, it's
I don't
irrelevant.
think carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So it won't matter in many respects with respect to any potential increases of property assessments if the government raises the homeowner grant threshold. They're always going to want a certain percentage of people to be eligible for that grant, especially thinking ahead, next year's a provincial election year, so they're certainly not going to want to disenfranchise a whole whack of people just because of crazy Vancouver prices.
But here's the thing, let me just interject on that point, not to get too much into the political minutiae, but so as you probably, or you may or may not know, the homeowner grant starts stopping at $1.2 million assessment value and is completely gone by 1.3. Well, that means that many properties, the average property value in Lions Bay is 1.3. That means at least half, or it's not half because I don't know what the median is, but many properties in Lions Bay don't get the homeowners grant. The politics of it is that let's call them the urban mayors, where property values are high. It's only here in Victoria where the property values are high. They vote NDP anyway, or so the province thinks. The province is Liberals, in case you don't know. They like to be seen to be sticking it to the NDP voters because their base in Kelowna and Nelson like that and will vote them in because they all get their homeowners grant. And not only that, they also get a $200 rebate on the carbon tax. That's all blended in with their homeowners grant. So the rural base of the Liberal Party likes this. And so that's the conspiracy theory, obviously.
But the political reality is that a significant majority of the province lives in this corner of the province. So
I think it's very
they
short-sighted.
They can't ignore, notwithstanding what you just said, they can't ignore us.
Absolutely. So I'd be very careful in how I couch it in any message to the
Yeah.
village. But I do think the village should know before, rather than after, that there's this potential that the homeowners grant, where you won't see it anymore.
Well, yeah,
for a while.
Yeah, and well, whether you should be ringing that bell yet, I caution that's my opinion is you should not ring that bell.
That's because you're
Okay,
not the
I'm on
politician.
record.
I wouldn't be ringing that bell yet either, because I think it's the bad time to ring it.
The other thing is,
Peter being a bellkeeper.
even if assessments go up significantly, it doesn't mean that people's property taxes are going to go up.
No, that
If they all rise together, then they all pay the same amount of whatever
Yeah, of course
council
not.
determines is the tax.
no, that's never
So
going to be. It's
it's
always
only if your neighbor's goes up and yours doesn't, or yours goes up and your neighbor's doesn't.
No, I think we all understand that
uh,
around the table, although that still is a message that's not quite
So,
there.
Peter, you can do the recommendation, you don't need a motion, do you?
Sorry,
No, let's take
just a good couple of other things I want to say while I'm at it. Sorry. I also am concerned, and I just want to say that poking around BCAA and asking a lot of questions may only invite them to take a closer look at Lions Bay. And if you're thinking that they might go up a lot, well, they might go up higher than they might otherwise if, they just kind of leave us alone and ignore us. Like, some of the assessments have gone down over the last 3 years, I think, previous 3 years. So they might be artificially low, and they might look at that and go, "Whoa, yeah, these are artificially low. Let's really bump these babies up." So I just caution that be careful what nest you poke with a stick.
Well,
Um,
it's, yeah,
and
okay.
then just putting it out there. And then number 3 is pretty open-ended. You're just saying the purpose for which you want it. It could be other things, but you don't know what. Just in terms of other purposes for which this kind of data could be used, my caution would be that please bear in mind that notwithstanding, there are wider parameters to access to this information than most people believe or understand or commonly believe, and that a lot of people treat this kind of information as being their own private information, notwithstanding the level to which it has now become available online if one
Yeah,
wants
it's
to
completely
actually
public,
look.
in fact. Yeah.
So I think that we should be sensitive to that general feeling that I think a lot of people have about their property tax assessments, and that we should bear in mind what is or think about what is the village's role in looking at people's property tax assessments. And I think that at a certain point you want to be careful not to be poking around in too many like
Okay, Peter, I'm going to have to stop you
assessments.
there. You had your 2 minutes. So I can see you're against it. Luckily, you don't have a vote. It probably explains the resistance to having supplied this data for 2 years of asking. I'm trying to tell the village stuff that I think they need to know. The village, I have found, seems to handle information quite well. To give you some comfort, I will, as I do for everything, I will run it by you in case I put my foot in my mouth inadvertently, unnecessarily. But there's nothing sinister here.
No, just I think where I'm going though is there may be purposes that may come to light or that you may think are a good idea that should come back to council.
Fair enough. I mean, the ultimate goal that I was trying to understand here was to compare us as to other municipalities to justify our tax increases, saying that with these kinds of property values, this is the kind of tax-based tax that you see in Oak Bay, West Van, Whistler, and we're there. But I never could get that information.
Well, be careful about making those comparisons too, because those people receive more services for their tax dollars than people do here.
Exactly. So if they
so
want them,
it's-
they're going to have to pay for them. Because why? Because our water costs 6 times what Metro pays, for example. So that's the basis there. You have the information, at least I think adequately.
So the wording of the resolution that I'd be happy with is just with those slight changes.
That's
that
fine.
I had,
I'm more than happy with those.
Okay.
Oh, it's everything that I'm asking for, really, except it's 2012, except 2011. And that's 5 years right there.
Yeah. Oh, and a slight rewording of.
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah,
Okay. So do you need that again? We'll take that as the motion.
I'll second
I
on
do
Peter's
have it
wording.
again, please.
Yeah.
Just hand her the wording.
So I'll hand it over to you in a second. I'll read it out. A spreadsheet containing all individual. So sorry. The council direct administration to provide the mayor by November 7th. Not sure about the date, but a spreadsheet containing all individual property assessment data supplied by BCAA bracket except owner names, addresses, and other such personal information for the years 2012 to 2016 inclusive. And number 2 is as written.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second. I think I saw a second. Thanks. Any further discussion? All in favour? And opposed? It carries. Okay, thank you. And I will now stop talking. Fred.
You had something?
Council?
Okay.
Oh. Okay, go.
Thank you. I'll be quick.
Sorry.
Potpourri of things, so that everybody's in a loop. Remembrance Day is coming along nicely, and those people are taking care of that. The private event, which is probably going to be fairly large for Pat and Greg Smith, is on the 19th. Potluck, I think that's been taken care of by former Mayor Broughton. The Arts Club is having their big punch bowl thing at the start of next month. Phone directory is still in the research stage, and the events committee, and I have something for you, Carl, that you can embed within the mayor's e-post this weekend, but the thread of it was the volunteers had a very big turnout for the kids' party on Friday afternoon. They had over 80 kids and games and all the rest of that. The events committee then did the turnaround, putting the kids to dinner, back to bed, only to be back here dressed as goblins and ghouls for their own 8 o'clock party, which apparently was also well tricked out as well. But there was north of 80 people there as well too. They point out that they calculate they did over 76 hours of volunteer work, decorating, pre-organizing, cleaning up. And then they went on to praise the fire department for their pyrotechnic work. And they also mentioned Will and Garth, who, and I quote, always helped them out tremendously. And there we go.
Thanks, I will put that in. And if I can just return to my one report. Garth and Alberto came in on a Saturday to Squire. Pam Goldsmith-Jones around. They enhanced the entire experience. Yeah, the voice of authenticity, they know what they're talking about. They've been doing this a long time. It was much appreciated, and I said so at the time, and I'll say so again. Please, Nye, make sure that they understand we get it, and we really, really appreciate it.
And last, I'd be remiss, the PAC was also doing a fundraising thing with the Caulfield Village Fish Market. You too could have 100 pounds of halibut or salmon. I chose not to and just gave them some dough. So if anybody wants to do that, raise your hand and I'll contact you later. Thank you, and we're done.
The man put up his hand. He wants 100 pounds of halibut. Got it? And Fred will now give us a pun.
Or restrain myself.
Okay, Fred, lay it on us.
I wrote it all out, so if you don't mind a bit of repetition of what Nye has already spoken, I'll just blast through it. Infrastructure Committee meeting of July 24th, we had some key points I'll just touch on. As already alluded to, Kevin Healy of Creus Engineering attended as our guest presenter. The IC asked him to come to provide information in response to the IC's concerns about Creus's proposed infiltration gallery plugging and cleaning it, or backflushing issues. Key to this discussion was the clarification of the effort needed to clean the gallery if it becomes blocked. The IC previously understood that plugging the gallery would render it inoperative and require major effort, as in equipment and dollars, to dig it out, clear it, and replace it. I confirmed that the current year periodically gets filled completely, often with larger debris movable only by machine, so we are already dealing with the gallery's worst case scenario. Additionally, since the gallery is filled with only 6-inch rock movable by hand, large boulders cannot be trapped inside, requiring large machines for removal. These clarifications ease the IC's concern, and the members now feel more confident in the design, contingent on one, the top foot or so of rock be 3-inch diameter instead of 6 to trap smaller debris. Second, remainder of gallery depth remain filled with 6-inch rock per proposal. Third, more air pipes be added to distribute the cleaning action. And fourth, the worst case scenario upon plugging is no more onerous than what we deal with today. So that was a major point that came out of the committee on that. We also dealt with terms of reference for change for the infrastructure committee. Was changed at this time to accommodate the change of date of meetings from the second Monday of each month to the 4th. This provided an opportunity to tweak some of the wording for clarity, which Peter has done quite accurately. The changed wording does not interfere with the running of the meetings nor change the committee's purpose for being. And I think that was the main thrust of the meeting.
Great, thanks. Minutes will be forthcoming once I've run the cycle back through the committee for approval. Good, thanks. Yeah, I see as, it's really a support for Nye. but I think it's fairly valuable. It's some pretty good expertise, or at least pointers. Obviously, we still need the engineers willing to stamp, that we pay to stamp drawings, but it's a lot of pretty good expertise pretty quick.
There's a huge base of knowledge in there, I see, and they really, really have come through for the village.
I wonder if we should get listed with the events committee's Monday night activities.
In terms of?
Something to do on Monday night, come and see the IC meetings.
Well, it's a heck of a lot of fun if you like that kind of stuff.
Actually,
Right?
a lot of them are pretty good.
If you know the difference between metric and imperial. Okay, thanks, Fred. So we're moving on to emergency services. Anything there? No? I don't think there is. There's no fire or police report. Okay, resolutions. Peter, do you want to talk to these?
Well, we need to appoint a councillor as your alternate for the Mayor's Council, TransLink Mayor's Council, and for the GRD or Metro.
Now, is this just a change? Because at the moment, Jim is my alternate for TransLink.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if that...
Unless you want to continue doing that.
I'm fine because the reality is that I'm out there anyways.
It barely comes up.
Yeah.
Although I think Ron expressed interest in potentially doing it. I mean, it's,
Well, it's,
if you want to put your hand up,
well, we're gonna have an alternate for the alternate.
we can do that. We can resolve it. Yeah, as long as they see a resolution.
Okay, well, alternate for the alternate. I mean, I get a big kick out of both these things.
Okay, so I think what we should do then is Councillor Hughes. Let's just say confirm because Jim is already. Councillor Hughes as the village's alternate member of the TransLink Mayor's Council. Okay, Peter, you're going to have to think through what the wording is and add Councillor M as a second alternate.
If they even permit that.
Yeah, we did go through this whole thing because we tried to do it on an ad hoc basis when both Helen and I were going to be away, and there was some thing.
Yes.
They had some specific wording.
So I'll look at that.
So can we just do that? That would be council's desire, and you can do the resolution as needed in the minutes that we can point them to. Okay, and then the GVRD, which is soon going to become Metro Vancouver finally, I think, even though the province doesn't want to allow the name change, I think it's somehow happening, was Councillor Waterson, and we've never actually appointed a new one. And so if council agrees, I would nominate Councillor McLaughlin to be the alternate director, because he likes that kind of stuff.
Love that kind of stuff.
So I'll make that motion. Can I have a second? You can't second it. Okay, thanks. That's seconded. Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll take. I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? I think you can actually vote as well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so that's good. Do we want to do a second alternate in the unlikely event that both of us can't do it? I think we just leave it like it is. Do you remember, Shauna?
I can't remember.
There are some special. I think they only allow one, and then you have to rescind that appointment and appoint a temporary, and then unrescind it again.
Pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
but I can't remember.
They only want to see one, and it may be the case for TransLink as well. In which case we'll have to do, every time both can't make it, we're going to have to do a special. Okay. Is that good enough for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bylaws. There being none, we'll move to correspondence. Ron, you want to do your magic?
Yes, thank you. Pretty light. This is G1, the farm property tax reform. This is pretty much Metro. There are no farms that I know of in their boundaries, so it's no response from this one.
Is that correct, Peter?
So
We have no agricultural land reserve.
No, we
have,
don't.
I mean, the whole issue is housing in the ALR,
Bingo.
and so we have no ALR, so it's not doesn't impact us.
And which goes to the next one, which is mixed income transit oriented rental housing study. This is Metro's PR piece of what they've done. I've got no recommended response unless you've got something, Carl.
Nope.
The 2016 Chief Elected Officials Forum. Carl, you said you're going to go. So
Yeah, I had the
you'll note
date wrong, but I'm
date.
glad to see it's not the date that I thought, which was Thursday and
So
Friday.
that is on page 45 in red at the bottom.
So Peter,
and-
you wanted to get a resolution on that from council?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
good.
Okay,
Okay, so seeing as it's me, I'll move that I attend this meeting and overnight, because I think it looks
in
good.
Richmond.
It's not like I actually am looking for meetings to go to, but this is one I think I should go to. So can I have a second on that? Thanks. Any further? All in favour? Opposed? That carries.
That was this one here? The-
Page 45,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Is that the open checkbook on this one for the, I don't think it's a fee, it's just a room, it looks like.
I don't think there's a fee.
No.
I'm not sure.
So you need staff to card you in and them to book the room, which is in the bottom part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the cost is just
I think it's
the
going to be a
hotel
room, yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's done.
And the reason I
is
would
it-
say overnight is because all the work's going to get done over drinks and dinner
Yeah.
with the other
That's usually the way it
elected
goes.
officials.
No friends that you can stay with in Richmond.
Don't know anybody in Richmond.
Well,
What about your boat, Jim?
yeah, I'm ready. My boat. There you go. You can stay in my boat.
Is it
you know.
covered?
Yeah,
It's got power. It's fine.
a little cool, but it's okay.
No, it's not cool.
All right,
It's got
anyhow,
power. It's
enough
got heat.
jocularity. Okay, review of the Bear Smart Community Program. This
Okay,
is
so
a phone call.
Yeah, that's happening on the 18th of December.
Okay, so that's going to you.
Yep.
And that's on that. The support for, but actually, we'll come back to the biosphere. I'm going to skip to the resident correspondence
Okay.
and go R1, R2, and R4. And these are all to do with the power pole being knocked out and the telecommunications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My recommendation would be that Peter respond to all three. And that there was the one from Mr. Fokerson about the alternate communication thing. So
That's already in Peter's lap because
yeah, so
he's-
that's his. And I think that was it for those three.
so the three you're talking about are the
Bromley, Fulkerson, and Douglas.
yeah, for some
So
reason.
Bromley was
yeah.
wanted that to happen. Fulkerson was the telecommunications, and Mr. Douglas was.
Can I just ask you about the Douglas one? He says he's the grandson, but he talks about his parents a lot. Is he their grandson or is he their son?
Their
I
son.
thought he was the
Okay, so
son.
I
the
thought it was
grandson
son.
is just a misnomer there. Right?
Yeah,
That's right.
he's the
His
son.
son.
So he asked to be added to the emailing list. Is that
I think I would
Anybody
also
can ask that, right? have you done it? Oh, okay, fantastic. And I see he got the informational brochure in Saskatchewan, which means that I'll just point this out to you, CAO de Jong, that Buff and Ellen did not get the mailer. Unless you sent two.
Interesting.
Because that went to the address of record of the property.
The address of record. Okay, so the address of. Okay, so I'm speculating he might have done it for tax purposes and things like
Oh,
that.
sure,
Or he's
yeah.
fiduciarily looking after his
Yeah.
parents, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Is there, Peter, you think that's correct assignment for you to send a nice thank you for your.
Okay.
I mean, these are all valid points. I think some good points are made. People need to be reassured that we're
Yeah, we'll take a notice.
taking notice.
Okay, so that takes it, those three, thank you, Peter, and R3, which is Scott's, which Naya's dealt with
Yep.
already, so we're done on that, which brings us back to G5,
So,
which is,
before you leave Mr. Ando's correspondence, he had requested in his correspondence that council or the mayor or Councillor Bain reply on behalf of council. The tack that's been taken is for staff to have provided the advice on the information necessary to respond to the questions. So in light of Mr. Ando's request, I think it's appropriate for council to determine whether or not they would like to adopt the response that has been provided by staff.
As a response.
as the
Yeah.
response.
As a responsive council.
Okay, well, that's I
Thank
don't
you,
think
let
there's
me
any.
put that forward, see if someone.
Okay, thanks. I'll second that because that's
Okay,
a no-brainer.
So that, then, Peter, you can deal with Mr. Rando on that. Oh,
You're all aware I did respond to.
As did I.
That's fine.
Yeah. So he's had multiple responses. He actually joked to me that he was going to compare them all for fact checking.
all right, so.
He will.
So we'll make yours the official one.
Okay,
CNN/factcheck.org.
well, I think both of the two counselors were a little higher than the water table on that direction to Mr. Rando.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's leave it at that. So I think that's done then, and we've received.
Okay, so
Okay.
who will send that? Peter?
Yep.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you, Peter, for cleaning house.
I mean,
We're back
at
to
your
G-
direction, it
Yeah.
will be sent.
Yeah.
Not you personally.
We're back to G5, support for biosphere, and I hand it back to the mayor, your worship.
Okay, thanks. So Fred, Ron, and I, and Peter for that matter, although, were you still there for the biosphere presentation?
Yep.
Yeah. I saw this. It was a fairly drawn out, could have been said in 10 minutes like everybody else had, but turned out to be an hour-long presentation, fairly detailed, on the drivers for what UNESCO biosphere regions are. The future of how sound and a self-appointed ad hoc committee are advocating that how sound be declared such a UNESCO biosphere region. Without going through the hour-long presentation by memory, it's hard for me to sort of persuade one way or the other. Essentially, biospheres allow areas to declare core protected areas with buffer zones and then multi-use zones around them concentrically. They don't have to be contiguous, they don't have to be concentric. It's essentially, from what I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, it's an awareness tool. It doesn't obligate anybody to anything, including property owners in any one of the zones. It's really, is it fair to say it's a marketing tool? An awareness driver?
Well, I think the idea was that it provides an educational opportunity to the community to be aware of what they have here, to respect it and take care of it. If I can jump to my point on this, I don't have a problem with it as much as it stands on its own. I did a little bit of research into what the biosphere thing is beyond what the presentation was, and let's see. If I could just read out one of the things the biosphere reserves are. The mission is the World Network of Biosphere Reserves of the MAB program. MAB, I had to look that up, Man in the Biosphere program. Consists of a dynamic and interactive network of sites. It works to foster harmonious integration of people and nature for sustainable development through participatory dialogue, knowledge sharing, poverty reduction, human well-being improvements, respect for cultural values, and by improving society's ability to cope with climate change. I hope they provide more punctuation. It promotes north-south, south-south collaboration and represents a unique tool for international cooperation through the exchange of experiences and know-how, capacity building, and the promotion of best practices. I don't find any problem with it, and I'd be happy to support that. But I saw you had done a good rewording of the proposed, what we would call it, resolution. I like your proposed one a lot better than the original.
Yeah, that's why I changed it.
There was too much stuff in it, and one of the things I'm concerned about, and I think you and I had this conversation before, was that often when a piece of legislation or a resolution comes through, there's often earmarks attached to it, and I think I'm okay voting in favor of something if it's clean and simple without earmarks or anything piggybacking on it. And I have absolutely nothing against Indigenous peoples, but the line in here, including its declaration of the rights of Indigenous peoples, that doesn't fit with me. Let's just talk about the biosphere and forget about that aspect of it. I think we have to treat all people as equals and not give anybody a leg up on anybody else. I mean, the Indigenous people's issues are separate to the issue of the biosphere, in my opinion, and I would rather just keep it out.
Yeah, so not to preempt the discussion, I had exactly the same issue. and I took it out in my first draft of this reworked resolution. Ruth responded to me that in order to be approved by UNESCO, they want to see that statement in there as a resolution of local governments. Therefore, in other words, if it's not there, they are unlikely to give any credence to the resolution. So I looked up what this Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is, and it's as you would expect. It's not giving away sovereignty, but it's essentially saying, things need to be redressed. Well, that's no different to the government of BC and Canada's policy either, I suppose. But are we giving something away by endorsing that? I don't know.
But again, it gets back to
That's why it's in
something-
there, though.
It's piggybacking on the coattails of another program, and I think it's a sneaky way of getting things in, and I don't want to support that.
I don't disagree. What are you guys saying?
I was an hour, I wasn't getting back at that meeting.
I mean,
You were paying attention, right?
without
You weren't even huffing and puffing. I was doing the huffing and puffing.
I was squirming.
without being nasty, I mean, if this, it would be very clear for me if they said that we would be able to ban tankers and gravel pits from Howe Sound because we had a biosphere. Then I would say yeah in favor. But I agree with everything that they're saying, but at the same time I agree with Fred and Carl in that I don't want to be. I don't know what there is here for us.
Yeah, no, there's no jurisdictional teeth whatsoever.
No, so-
Nothing like that. It's an awareness tool.
Yeah, so we have, if I'm not mistaken, we already have a lot of awareness about who we are and where we are and what we have out here, so I don't know what the advantage would be.
Okay. Peter, care to make any observations?
Well, one observation is simply that, the line of which that statement is a part, preceding that statement, it says, basically saying that the principles of cooperation of the Howe Sound Community Forum are consistent with the principles of UNESCO. And the principles of UNESCO provide an effective tool for furthering United Nations conventions. So there's a lot of United Nations conventions that are furthered by UNESCO. Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People is just one of those conventions. Are we going to go in and drill down? What are all the other
Yeah,
conventions?
why don't we list all the others?
To see what they are and whether we have any objection to any of them. I think that the United Nations as an organization which promotes a lot of peace and harmony in the world and generally has higher levels of aspirations for the human race, may have some things that we might think are superfluous or don't relate to us, but they also have a lot of good things. And I think that if we're not going to go in and investigate what all those other conventions are that this supposedly aligns with and helps UNESCO further, then I don't think we should have any objection to the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It's just one of the United Nations conventions that are in there. So I don't know that it really makes any difference to attempt to exclude it. As the mayor said, if it's excluded, then you might as well not pass a resolution because it will carry no weight with UNESCO. So that's my thoughts on it without providing anything really in terms of the meat and potatoes of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples
To
itself.
continue, add to that, okay, I don't disagree, but I say, I'm looking at this saying, well, why are they highlighting that?
That is the other side of that coin. Yeah.
That's the other side of the
Why
coin. Why,
that
are they,
one?
why would they highlight everything? Why are they doing that? They're making a political statement there by doing that.
I think that probably it's highlighted because this would go nowhere without the support of the local First Nations. So if the
Okay.
local First Nations don't support this, then this
Yeah.
is dead in the water, and they would like to see this, noting that it's one of the many conventions of the UN.
Okay.
that makes
But
sense.
they would
Yeah.
like to remind everybody that
Yeah.
this thing exists, and
Yeah.
and you know, it has some pretty good highfalutin ideals. You know, whether or not one agrees with all of them or not, I don't think it really matters. But
Do you think it's a good idea, a UNESCO biosphere, based on what you saw and what you know?
I haven't drilled down any further than the presentation.
And you see these things in, you know, places like Costa Rica, you know, in the rainforest, and Brazil and South Africa. I think it'd be pretty cool to have House Sound. I mean, certainly House Sound needs all the help it can get, you know, in terms of awareness and especially in the wider world. I also asked Ruth, would this in any way impinge on, conflict with, deal with any future consideration of House Sound or part of House Sound being declared a national park? And the answer is no. They're not mutually exclusive. They're complementary almost. Yeah, any consideration of Parks Canada declaring some park, and this was mentioned at the forum as well. There's some sort of very early initial consideration of part of Gambier Island being considered as the core of an urban national park, and Parks Canada is supporting that kind of idea to bring urban populations into national parks. Right now, the national parks are too far away for anybody to go to, and so they're looking for new national parks that are these urban national parks. So be that as may, Peter raises the right point. The reason that particular call out should be there is to engage the support of our local First Nations, which is a good point. Any further discussion?
I would like to add just a little bit. There is,
in theory you may not, but actually you may.
Anyway, I looked at this thing, and it's the power of moral suasion, ethical suasion in the international sphere that comes into play. So, you know, from a very broad perspective, I think...
Yeah, and thank you for your email and support, by the way, as well. So, yeah, so I think we've heard enough. So let's track the text on this page as the motion. Would anybody care to second it as is? We also have an option to table it and renegotiate.
Second.
Okay, that's a second. Any further discussion? So I'll call the question on this, the ultimate goal of which is Council supports nomination of Howe Sound as a UNESCO Biosphere region. All in favour?
Abstain.
Can't abstain. Abstain is the same as yes.
I know, but it's my name.
Okay. Okay, so we'll minute it that Councillor Bain abstained, acknowledging that was a positive vote. I'll vote yes as well. So that carries. Okay, thanks. I understand.
Good discussion.
I thought through the same as well, but I think Peter actually changed my mind there. Okay, so where are we now? Unfortunately, we're nowhere near the record. Sorry. It's all Louis' fault. Now, there was one question I had in mind.
Sorry, I'll go home now.
No, you're welcome to stay.
You have to go home now.
Just about. Outgoing correspondence. Are we intending to do that? Was there no outgoing correspondence for this package?
Generally speaking, outgoing correspondence isn't something that is addressed through agendas, but I will address that in my correspondence policy.
Good, because why? Because otherwise, how does the public know what we said?
Yeah, and then there may be a place in certain circumstances for outgoing correspondence to become part of an agenda, but not necessarily in all cases. So
No, I
anyway,
understand,
it's
I
an
understand
aspect
there may
that
be
I'll-
exceptions,
that
but
I'll-
I think I speak for council when I say we would like to see the responses made public as well. Otherwise, what's the point?
Okay.
Okay, good, thanks, that's good for me. New business, Council Strategy Committee meeting November 15th at 3 p.m. for an update from our planner, Steve Olmsted. You'd like us to do that?
Yeah, that's
That's-
what I'm suggesting. is
That's
that
3 before the next council
that's-
meeting?
Yeah, we have a council meeting that evening.
Okay.
Does that date and time work for everybody?
November 15th.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, 2 weeks from now.
It's 2 weeks today.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm in town. Okay, yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, should have
Yeah, okay, do you need a motion? I think we do because we're changing the schedule, right?
Yeah.
So a motion to hold a CSC on November 15th at 3 p.m. Thanks. And a second? Further? Cheerio, Louis. Thanks for coming. Bye. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay, Peter, and then immunisation clinic.
So I had a call today from. Too bad we didn't stay for this. Darn. From the Bay Pharmacy in Horseshoe Bay, indicating that they would be willing to come out here to Lions Bay and do flu vaccinations for free. I did some checking with VCH to make sure that, see if there's any regs or anything with respect to that. Was told simply you just need to make sure that that they're certified to immunize. There's a certificate for that. I had asked whether, my concern at first was whether or not, for those people who don't qualify for free immunizations, whether they would, whether the pharmacist would then be taking payment of money for those who had to pay.
Without an MSP.
Well,
account.
no, I mean someone like me who isn't around elderly people or young kids or whatever, I would have to pay $25 to get an immunization shot
At a clinic.
at a
Under
clinic
the
or at a
MSP,
pharmacy
yeah, yeah.
or Extra Foods or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was the case, then my concern would be that we would be providing assistance to a business, et cetera, without going out to other pharmacists, et cetera. Anyways, I clarified that no, he does not even do that at all at his own pharmacy. He just deals with the free vaccine that the government supplies. And so he would come out for free, and free vaccine, obviously,
For people who
if you don't-
qualify.
for people who qualify. It's quite a long list. I had inquired whether or not we could get a public health nurse from, the Squamish or North Shore. Not likely, I was told. We could hire somebody, Victoria Order of Nurses, but this guy's offering to do it for free, and it's just for the free shot. So I can't really see a downside to it. He suggested November 11th at 12 noon till 2 p.m. I'm thinking that would probably work quite well because we have the Remembrance Day
Straight off the
ceremony.
Remembrance Day.
50 people
Everybody's
right
here.
there. Yeah.
And then and then you just have to have a little area where they can go and do the shot privately or whatever.
Yeah, well, in the
kitchen or whatever.
Would he bring an assistant to do the vetting of the care cards?
I'm not sure whether he has.
Would you even
somebody
need a
to
care
do
card?
that. Yeah, I think you have to show ID registration with Pharmacare, or you can register on the spot or prove that you're eligible. So, anyways, thoughts?
There's no downside here.
Yeah.
Free is free.
I mean, obviously, he gets some benefit of people having
Well, that's why he's doing it.
greater awareness of his pharmacy in Horseshoe Bay.
That's-
But he's
that's
probably the closest pharmacy,
fine.
anyways.
I imagine he gets paid by the government to administer.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think.
No.
No. I don't.
No,
I
I'm
think
sure it's a
just-
marketing tool for him. Yeah, I mean, it might induce people who would not normally feel that, may not even be able to get to the nearest clinic, or it would be a bit of a mission
It
for
would
them.
be
to do.
actually a good target audience and
Yeah, exactly.
Remembrance Day. In fact, it'd be the perfect target.
Yeah.
I
That's what I
I
thought.
would think it's probably a perfect audience,
Yeah.
yeah, from that point of view.
So when you weigh off him giving up his Remembrance Day for the minor marketing
No,
and
it's
the
a
benefit of the
community building
villagers, I
program.
mean, I guess he can use this as the private area. I mean, I'd go so far as Chambers here. It's next door.
Got you upstairs.
Well-
Or actually, yeah, that's right. We thought
Oh,
about-
upstairs,
we thought
I
about
think
the
upstairs.
one.
Yeah, that makes sense,
That
yeah.
makes
Thank
more
you,
sense.
thank you, Shannon.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm a yes.
nods.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, done.
You don't need a resolution on that? No. Okay.
Did that go in an e-post?
Well,
Yeah,
so
oh,
we
yeah,
only
we
have
would-
one opportunity, so it's got to go this Friday. Otherwise, there's nobody's going to know about it.
Yeah.
It's in an interim e-post. It's
I
not
suppose,
bad.
but yeah.
Stuff like that.
Okay, that-
You gotta get out of the rut here.
Okay. Public questions and comments.
I was gonna say something.
What about the immunization thing? Do you like that idea?
No, I would never take a flu shot myself, but, I mean, that's everybody's property to do that.
Okay, we won't ask you again.
Okay.
Did you say
One
you,
thing-
you did have
One other thing?
What's that?
you had something to say to me?
Oh, yeah, about the post office. What happens if somebody, like, say, muddies the floor, whatever, he cleans?
Well, that's what I would like to know.
I've seen the postie clean it,
Oh, okay.
actually, and
Oh.
the private service does, she's in there too.
And who empties the bins when they get full?
I think
they
that's the
wheel it out.
Smith right. Does that.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
You agree with me that it doesn't look so good, right?
I'm not in there that much, so I never notice the cobwebs, but I usually notice cobwebs.
Okay, thank you. We now will close the meeting under, I need a motion under 91C, E and I, and 92B. Can I have that motion? And a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so let's close the meeting. Okay, we're returning from closed meeting at 9 minutes past 10. Nothing to report other than the fact that matters were discussed pertaining to the reasons for closing the meeting. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the council. Thank you. And a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Meeting adjourned at 10:10.